Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
Welcome to it. Here we go. We got everyone unmuted. There we go. Come on. Let's unmute everyone. Curtis, you're muted on your side. Anyway, we're welcome to Southern Sense, another live edition, starting off screwed up as always. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the radio, not even the radio chick, the chickadee now, host and producer, along with my co-host and author, Curtis C.S. Bennett. You can find us at southernsense.net if you're not watching there live. Oh, man. You see, we get all messed up last week, and it just rolls over into next week.
I hope not. I mean,
welcome to the comedy hour and a half. For the next 90 minutes, watch these two people make fools of themselves.
It'll all work out.
Oh, man. We got ourselves a jam-up show today. We've got a new guest. His name is Chuck Barham. Last week, we had his partner. We were trying to do a broadcast live from the Freedom Summit. That did not work out. And unfortunately, we got nothing. We had tested our equipment. We did all the things possible. And as we were broadcasting, everything crashed on us. So unfortunately, we got nothing, but we got names of guests from that summit that we're going to bring onto the show along the way. So stand back and sit back, and we'll talk to some of the people here live that we talked to at the summit. But we have Chuck Barham coming on from the Freedom Chamber. Also have a dear friend of mine, James Simpson. I've known him, ever since the Tea Party started. He's a dear friend. Matter of fact, I was talking to him as I was in the ICU with my late husband before he passed. That's how good a friend he was. He has a new book out called Manufactured Crisis, The War to End America. It's, oh man, this is an interesting book. It blows things wide open. So we're going to be talking to him about that and things that are going on today. So we got a lot to talk about and a lot to do. Man, Curtis, what has been going on is just mind-boggling.
Well, there's never a boring day with Trump in office. There's always something going on. If it isn't originating from the president, it's something counter productive from the left. And then when you add in other world events like the Houthis or we have a brand new pope, that just adds to the drama.
Yeah, it does. It all adds to the drama. I want to give a shout out to everyone that is watching, those that are over on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Rumble, Substack. We're live on those two now. Special, I want to really go. This guy comes into every single show, always says hi, always has something nice to say, great questions. So out to James, just want to give a hands out and hi. We love you, dude.
All right.
We love you. There's so much going on. Joe Biden, did you catch Joe Biden going on the View with Jill? What a disaster. If anyone had any questions about the mental faculty of Joe Biden and why he should not be president, all they need to do is just watch that.
Yeah, it's some people just don't know when to pack it in and just, go into retirement quietly. What was it? General MacArthur said, old soldiers don't die, they just fade away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
politicians can learn from that.
Well, Joe Biden is fading in front of the cameras. And the fact that Jill brought him in there and no one could understand what he was talking about. He said, he should have won this past election. He would have won it by 7 million votes.
And
Excuse
he
me.
said something strange that him and Harris argued a lot. I wonder about what.
Um, oh, it's possible. That is very possible. Okay. Uh, we have Ilyan Omar. Oh my God, she's been at it again, calling all white males terrorists. Uh, we've got Tish James, the Attorney General of New York, under FBI investigation and pending possible charges for the very same thing she
Mhm,
illegally charged Trump with. That
mhm.
got him that 35 count conviction.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
that's going to go out well.
concerning Omar, I hear that James Carville told her to leave the Democrat Party or form her own party.
I'm surprised James Carville didn't tell her to leave the planet.
Well, I think she insulted him, because he's an older white male.
Oh man, yeah. There's so much going on, and Jasmine Crockett. I mean, the GOP
Another one.
has been electing people to Congress that you turn around and you go, WTF. So you wonder what the blankety blank they were thinking to get these people in. She turned around and said, equated the GOP, that all Republicans, whether or not you're a conservative or you lean towards the middle or a little to the left, they said all Republicans are domestic terrorists.
Hmm.
You
I
know,
just don't like the language and their unprofessional approach to politics. I mean, when you look at a Shirley Chisholm or Barbara Jordan from back in the 70s and 80s, they had a little class about themselves.
yeah.
They were Democrat, but they carried themselves in a regal manner. These youngsters, I want to call them, they carry themselves like little street urchins or whatever.
No, street thugs.
That too,
I would say
yeah.
street thugs. We
Using
thought,
throwing the F-bomb all over the place and everything. It's just, I don't
you know,
know,
I thought it was bad
unprofessional.
when you tried to watch a movie from Hollywood and they'd come out and every other word was an F-bomb. I'm sorry. Your screenwriters have to be a little bit more intelligent than that. Is that the only vocabulary they know? I'm sorry. Not everyone drops the F-bomb every other sentence or every other word. I'll drop it occasionally. I accidentally did it in front of my mother the other day.
Well, you don't even hear it that much in The Godfather, every once in a,
Yeah.
scene, but
But you wonder what the quality of people that are coming out from the left. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking to James about. These very things, when we're asking what has happened to our culture to produce people of this caliber. Actually, I should say low caliber.
mhm.
And that is everything he covers in his book. And we're going to go over that, and we're going to talk about things that are going on today and equate to what he wrote in his book. So I don't want to go too far into that because he'll steal some of his thunder.
Well, when you look into the leadership of the Democrat Party, those who should be shown the way to the younger members of their party, it looks like they're following the younger people, because I'm hearing Chuck Schumer throw F-bombs and all of them. Miss Warren.
Again, this is all we're going to talk about, all of that with Jim.
It's
So let's
just-
hold on to that. Just hold on to that. I want to get around to the fact that we do have a new pope. And already people are coming out of the woodwork saying we have problems with them. I don't know whether or not some of these things are true or not. I just read an article today. And again, I haven't had a chance to do more research into this. But allegedly, he kind of like slid onto members of the ministry involved in underage sexual violation. Whether or not any of this is true, what the circumstances are, I can't answer. This is going to have to be for the Catholic Church to resolve. But I was raised Italian Roman Catholic, and I was glad to see the new Pope as someone who's young and has a conservative tendency. He's Catholic Orthodox, so he is strictly adhering to that. He's already made his stance on certain sexual and social issues, made them clear, and yet he also has some liberal tendency. I'd say he's more maybe of a libertarian than I would say a conservative. Um, and I was glad to see someone. I don't know. I get a feel when I look at someone's face. I get a feel about that person, whatever sort of a vibe they give off to me. And I was not thrilled with the previous pope. I was not thrilled with his socialistic standings. Um, I am happy to see that they picked someone that of this caliber. So we're going to wait and see. Whenever something like this happens, people are going to come out of the woodwork and let the church resolve it. So I would say prayers are with you, Pope Leo the 14th. Yeah, an American from Chicago, so, so we'll see what
Yeah, I
happens
got
with that.
Catholic friends who are already saying that he's kind of like a rhino. So I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, it's up to the church to resolve any issues that are not out there. And I do wish him well. I do wish him well. There's certain things I saw going on in the Catholic Church over the years that chose me to move on to a different faith. As my sister calls it, Catholic light. But then again, she went to the Baptist. She became a Baptist, married a Baptist minister. So, but with that, I have to admit, though, there is surveys going out showing that there is a turn back to Christianity. People are starting to turn back to faith, and it's mostly in the Protestant faiths. Like mine is the Anglican. My sister is now Baptist, and I'm not sure about you, but but they're saying that mostly it's younger men. Young men are now turning to the Bible and looking for guidance. And again, maybe this is something we should also discuss with Jim because of what he found in his research and what he did in his book. And maybe because of what he found is the reason why people are saying maybe there's more out there than what we're seeing in society. And maybe this is the reason why they're turning to faith. And if it is, it makes my heart sing with joy. It really does. I'm looking at the clock. Oh my goodness. We're going to have our guest calling in soon. One other thing I wanted to mention is that Justice Souter passed away. And he was a Supreme Court judge for a short while. He retired in 2019. And he originally was a Republican, but as a Supreme Court judge, he switched and went to the dark side and became a Democrat and made certain rulings that really did upset a lot of people, mostly with a case up in New London, Connecticut. And it dealt with the eminent domain and the claiming of private property. These were homes that were claimed under eminent domain. And usually you do that for something that the government needs to have done, whether it's a railroad station coming in, a highway, something that's important and imperative, and that they need this specific spot for that specific reason. But that's not what it was. It was to put in a hotel
usually in
and
the
businesses
public
and
interest, not the
offices.
private.
This was for private interest. They took from private individuals to satisfy private interest. That was a major Supreme Court ruling, and they ruled in favor of the government taking the property and giving it to business. Major Supreme Court ruling. That is one I would love to see overturned. That was our Justice Souter. He retired at 2019 to his farm. He was never married, and he enjoyed reading a good book rather than socializing. Interesting man. I'm sure we'll hear more about him as the days come, but may he rest in peace. With that said, those that listen to the show and watch know that we start off each and every show with a fallen hero. And today's fallen hero is going out to Air Interdiction Agent Jeffrey Kanas of the United States Department of Homeland Security. and Customs and Border Protection in the air and marine operations. His end of watch was Monday, December 16th of 2024. And this is his
The
dedication.
crash happened just after 10 this morning. A statement from Customs and Border Protection says the agent was on a border security mission when the helicopter went down. The agent who died was the only person on board. A group of Border Patrol agents lined up outside the Dulzura station late this afternoon as a procession carried the remains from the crash site.
NBC7's Shondell Moniz is near the scene of the crash in Potrero with the latest. Shondell.
Hey, Jackie. So here at Soul Valley Ranch Hemp Farm here in Potrero, we actually watched that procession about 2 hours ago, and we counted at least 18 vehicles driving by, a mix of CBP vehicles as well as CAL FIRE and Sheriff's Deputy vehicles, all just following a white van. And I wanted to clarify something about that person on board as well. We do know that they worked for CBP, but they weren't a Border Patrol agent per se. They were working as an air interdiction agent, which is someone who flies airplanes, helicopters, and drones to intercept threats to the U.S. and investigate dangerous criminal networks. That would give some more context about the mission that they were on before crashing. And we got to catch up with commercial pilot Robert Katz, who's been flying more than 40 years, to get some insight about what may have led up to the crash. He told me that the flight track shows the pilot was flying erratically before crashing. He also says they were flying very low to the ground to begin with, and the flight track log doesn't suggest anything was wrong with the copter itself. So it's hard to speculate what exactly caused this crash. Those are the details that we're waiting to find out from CBP, as well as who this pilot was. Live from Potrero, Shondell Moniz, NBC7.
Okay, thank you, Shondell.
We are hearing from the family of Customs and Border Protection agent Jeffrey Kanas for the first time since he died in a helicopter crash near Potrero.
NBC7's Jeanette Quesada joins us from Brownfield Municipal Airport with details.
According to a commercial pilot, FlightAware's flight tracker showed the helicopter where Jeff Kanas was traveling in take off from Brownfield Municipal Airport at 9 a.m. on Monday.
Loves aviation to begin with, and he loved flying.
Jan Kanas is Agent Jeffrey Kanas' sister. She says her brother was smart, compassionate. He loved his family, and he also loved the sky.
We have many things going on ahead of once. You're like other aircraft, radios, working with the grounders, and trying to complete the mission.
Agent Kanas was the eye in the sky for the U.S. border San Diego sector. He was the air interdiction agent for Customs and Border Protection. He had been with the agency for 18 years and was part of the Amering Operations Unit at Brownfield Municipal Airport. Our NBC7 crews rode along with him back in 2018.
We primarily will do border support missions.
Monday, he was killed during one of those border security missions when a CBP air and marine operations aircraft he was traveling in crashed north of State Route 94, about 2 miles south of Barrett Lake. Kanas was the pilot and the only person aboard the aircraft.
I had to actually tell my parents, which was really hard, and my our dad was a pilot too, so that was very difficult.
Jen says they want to know what happened, but they're letting the investigation run its course. U.S. Customs and Border Protection posted a statement on Instagram saying in part, CBP mourns the loss of AMMO agent Jeffrey Kanas. Please keep his family, friends, and colleagues in your thoughts. In a statement on X, the National Transportation and Safety Board said they are investigating the cause of the crash. From Brownfield Municipal Airport, Jeanette Quesada, NBC7.
And NBC7 reached out to U.S. Customs and Border Protection to ask for new details on the investigation, but we are still waiting for a response.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, the challenges known and those still unseen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let it be said. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation.
All right. Welcome back to Southern Sense live on southernsense.net as .net.
Mhm.
Do you think I can ever go into an intro without screwing it up?
Oh,
And thank
many
you for those
times.
who are watching.
Mhm.
Oh, no.
Mhm. Many
Thanks for
times.
those who are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, which is formerly Twitter, as well as Rumble and Substack. I want to mention something. This is in the vein of the dedication we do, and For many may not know that yesterday was the 80th anniversary of the victory of World War II, and it was officially named Victory Day for World War II in 2025 by the president. And his proclamation reads, "Today, our nation proudly commemorates the 80th anniversary of the Allied powers' triumph over National Socialism and fascism, and the end of World War II in Europe. One of the most epic victories for forces of freedom in the history of the world. On this Victory Day for World War II, we celebrate the unmatched might, strength, and power of the American Armed Forces, and we commit to protecting our sacred birthright of liberty against all threats, foreign and domestic. In the wake of December 7, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States righteously entered the fray of what would become the apex of the eternal battle between good and evil. After nearly 4 years of the darkest and bloodiest chapters ever recorded in human history, more than 250,000 Americans lost their lives in the fight against the Nazi regime. Today and every day, we pay tribute to all those who made the ultimate sacrifice for their nation, their liberty, and the survival of Western civilization. Without the sacrifices of our American soldiers, this war would not have been won, and our world today would look drastically different. May 8, 1945, marks the Allies' acceptance of Germany's unconditional surrender, the beginning of the end of years of long, gruesome, and brutal warfare. The millions of souls senselessly lost serve as a reminder of why we must pursue peace through strength. I remain steadfastly devoted to stopping the years of endless foreign wars and preventing the further loss of lives. As I stated during my inaugural address, we will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end. And my proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. As we commemorate Victory Day for World War II, we offer our unending thanks to every patriot from the greatest generation who left behind his home and family to fight for our freedom in distant lands. We honor the memories of all those who perished. Above all, we renew our commitment to keeping America and the entire world safe, secure, prosperous, and free. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim May 8, 2025, as a day in celebration of Victory Day for World War II. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 7th day of May, in the year of our Lord, 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. Wow. Started to make me cry.
So we have a Victory Day. So I've been hearing rumblings, though, that Trump wants to make Veterans Day Victory Day. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
And it's causing a little backlash from the veterans associations because, in their eyes, it's the veterans that, were the reason for the victory.
Yeah, exactly. I had not heard that. I mean,
look into it because we already have a Victory Day, and he just made a proclamation again. So I don't get it. Trump does, he says things sometimes, but I don't know if he's doing it because he's floating an idea or he just want to stir the soup.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's strange because, we have a Veterans Day. We also have a Memorial Day. Memorial Day is to
Right.
remember those who fought in the war, but to honor all the veterans have fought, have
That
not,
died.
not,
Yeah.
not, but not all veterans have fought a war or died. The fact that they turned around and
Right.
decided to sacrifice that part of their life to serve the nation in
That's why
war
we have
and in
Veterans Day.
peace. So you've got Veterans Day for that, but to honor those who served in the time of war
Mhm.
and died in the line of duty for our nation, that's Memorial Day. So, I mean, a Victory Day should be something completely different. Because when you talk about victory, what about the home front? Those on the home front that were also helping in the whatever effort in times of war and peace. That should be our Victory Day.
I'll look into it a
Something to
little
think about.
further. I will, but that's what I heard.
Mm. Well, hopefully we'll have our guests call in because it's a little bit of a screw up. I'm hoping that they will. It's just, you never
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. You never know.
I mean, we can always go back to talking about Canada becoming the 51st state.
Yeah, but I'm going to try to see if I can. Let me see. Let me see if I can get a hold of someone here. See if I can get them to make sure that our guest will be signing in because I don't see him here yet. So just bear with us, folks. This is what happens when we are live. You know,
Mhm.
I don't want to contact. No. No. I don't. All right, folks. I don't know what we're doing. We're just going to keep on winging it until I can get this done. I'll tell you what. Let's turn around and play the Justice for All for the J6s that they had. Thank God they have been freed. So we'll be right back.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we're back. We have not been able to get a hold of our guest, so we're just going to have to wing it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm sending just one last message. Ed, hey, listen, I got a bunch of stuff anyway to talk about. One of the things that not a lot of people are talking about is this huge, huge fentanyl bust that the DEA recovered this past week. They said it's the largest fentanyl bust they've ever made, and New Mexico played a major part in this. They seized more than 2 million pills. All right, in Albuquerque alone. This
Hadn't heard about
made
this.
you haven't, or have
Mm-mm.
you?
Haven't.
Oh, that's what I'm telling you about. Unless you're listening to Newsmax and sometimes Fox, you're not going to see this, or One American News. This it spanned across New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and Oregon. In Albuquerque alone, the staggering quantities of illegal drugs and assets included 2.7 fentanyl pills, 11.5 kilograms of concentrated fentanyl powder, no less than 1 milligram of fentanyl on you can kill you. Can just a fleck of it can kill you. But they picked up enough to kill the entire nation.
You know, when I think about it, I did hear something about that because it's like what, 100 times or 1,000 times more potent than cocaine.
Yeah,
Fentanyl.
it is. It is. All you need is just get a little bit of it on there, on your skin. It
Mhm.
gets absorbed into your skin, and it will kill you. And what they do is they mix them in with everyday over-the-counter drugs. So sometimes if someone gives you a Tylenol or something, you may not even know it's laced with fentanyl. Yeah, and I've heard stories. I've met women whose children died because they thought they were taking a safe drug that a friend handed them. They may have had a headache and said, "Hey, listen," and next thing I know, they have the child's gone, and they had no idea why. Along with this was 7 pounds of methamphetamine. They also recovered 49 firearms, including automatic rifles and ghost guns, along with $600,000 in cash.
Did they arrest anybody?
Oh yes, oh yes. They had 16 people were arrested, including the ringleader. Guess what he was? An illegal alien. Heriberto Salazar Amaya, with ties to the Mexican cartel, the Sinaloa, whatever it is, with ties to that cartel.
Sinaloa
Yeah.
cartel.
14 of them are facing federal charges ranging from fentanyl tracking to weapon charges and conspiracy. And one thing that I'm finding also, that they're finding, I shouldn't say I'm finding, but I see reported, is that we're finding active duty members serving as security.
Yeah, I read that article. Yeah. They got busted too.
Yeah. Yeah. I just got a contract.
And what
Later.
about these judges they're arresting now and charging with, aiding and abetting illegals to escape the courtrooms and stuff? The liberals are saying that's the red line we should never cross. They had no problem with Perk walking Trump and getting his picture mugshot all over the world.
This is
When
not
it comes
something
to
new.
judges, oh no, we shouldn't go there.
No, this is not new. Because if I remember a number of years ago, I was reporting on the same thing. I don't think you were co-hosting with me. I think Cool Mike was the one co-hosting at the time. And there was a female judge, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong,
Mhm.
but I do remember this off the top of my head. In the Boston area, the person actually was before her because it was an illegal alien. And when ICE came in to arrest him, she had him go in through her chambers and then exit out. So this is not something new. There have been activist judges doing this. We may not have been aware of it. It may not have been reported.
Mhm.
may not even been law enforcement. ICE may not have been, or if they were aware with it under the previous administration, may not have been doing anything about it. You got to
And
remember
that's
who was
true.
in office at the time.
That's true. But the hypocrisy of it, that they have no problem, going after the former president, now president again, but arresting judges is a line we shouldn't cross.
No,
If they
a
did
couple of
something
years,
wrong, they're not above the law.
no, a couple of years back, I was part of a group that fairusa.org sent down, and this was to support the immigration bill, HR 2. And they had us going from office to office, and I got to meet a lot of sheriffs and other chiefs. And I was hearing a lot from them that they were having a hard time working with ICE. And it was the previous administration. And it was the previous administration, the people they put in charge, were not allowing local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. Now, it used to be locally, your local government, if there was a liberal government, would turn around to law enforcement and say, no, you're not allowed to contact ICE if you have any illegal. Let them find them on their own. Now it's the other way around under the previous administration. So I wouldn't doubt a lot of this was going on under the previous administration.
Oh, most certainly.
It looks like the current administration, under the leadership of Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, I'm glad these two ladies have joined up because they're a powerful team, and they're going after the very problems that we on the ground were complaining about.
Cash Patel.
Oh, God bless that man. God bless that man. There was some rumor about him being more in a nightclub than being in his office, and he went after them tooth and nail. And I see him now before Congress, and my heart just sings. And he's saying, "You're not getting away with a piece of crap. Not even an iota of dust is going to get past this man."
Well, they came after him, and now they want to say, "Oh, this is lawfare," something they started. And now all of a sudden we're the ones who are, going after Trump's enemies.
Well, all I have to say is Tish James, she campaigned on putting Trump behind bars. She literally campaigned on that. And she got her wish.
What's creepy, that video. What's creepy is that video in the courtroom where she's just staring at him.
Oh yeah.
He's facing forward. She's a couple of aisles behind him to the right, and she's just staring at him, real creepy, like she's got a fetish or something.
I don't know. It looks like we may have lost our guest. I have to apologize. It was a last minute shift because one person said he had to apologize. Something came up. He couldn't be with us, and he got his partner to cover for him. And it looks like his partner may either have problems or what, but I'm not getting anything coming back on this. So I apologize to the audience. Sometimes these are things you cannot foresee. And it looks like that's what happened. Yeah, they're not connecting anyway. Anyway, we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. Tish James, for those that are unaware of what's going on with her, Letitia James is the Attorney General in the state of New York. And as we were talking about, she actually was in front of the cameras and the crowds, literally saying that I am going after Donald Trump. I'm going to have him arrested. I'm going to have him. She was saying she was going to put him behind bars.
When she was campaigning at that.
I mean, how they would allow her to campaign on the fact that she's going to arrest someone.
And charge.
Say, I'm going to enforce the law equally across the board. And if you've done something wrong, I'm going to go after you. Yeah, okay, fine. I can say that. You can say, I'm going to put the mob behind bars. You don't necessarily have to name the individuals. You say, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to go after the mob. I'm going to go after corruption. I'm going to go after this or that. I don't know if it's ethical to turn around and for her to say
Not at all.
that a running candidate from the opposite party she was going to absolutely destroy. But that's what she did. But what she did as she was prosecuting Donald Trump, she was purchasing real estate in New York. She looked for a favorable loan. She bought a 5-condo unit, but on the mortgage papers she put down, it was a 4-condo unit, because with a 4-condo unit, she can get a better mortgage rate. It was 5 condos. She'd have to pay more money. So she forged the mortgage documents in the state of New York. She also went on to purchase property in the state of Virginia. And in the state of Virginia, she put it down, it was going to be her primary residence. Attorney General, duly elected in the state of New York, primary residence, state of Virginia. Do you see a problem here?
Well, that is a problem, but why would she put her father as her husband?
I haven't gotten back to that. Don't jump the gun. So here she turns around on her mortgage papers so she can get her mortgage that this was going to be her primary residence. Yet the requirement to be Attorney General in the state of New York is that your primary residence is the state of New York. A false statement, number one. False statement number two, she stated she was married. So she needed proof of marriage. On the mortgage papers, she said her husband, who had the same last name as hers, turns out to be her father. Now, does this seem like something that there's the extreme left of the Democratic Party has a problem with? Wasn't it Ilhan Omar that committed immigration fraud by marrying her brother so she can come to the United States? She literally married her brother. Now we've got Tish James who's saying she's married to her father.
They'll do
Is there a problem here?
It just tells me they'll do whatever it takes to achieve whatever it is illegally they're after.
So she's committed mortgage fraud on multiple counts. This is multiple counts of fraud. So the FBI is seriously looking into it, and they have grounds for charges, I would say, in my personal opinion. They have grounds for charges. Now, just to change the subject a little bit, there was a gentleman, Ed Martin, that Donald Trump supported to be the DC top prosecutor. He had some ties to the January 6th. He was defending some of the rioters as an attorney. I mean, every person has the right, according to the Constitution, to have representation. They have the right to face and they're allowed defense. So he defended some of the J6ers. So Ed Martin comes up to be DC prosecutor, and Republican Senator Tom Tillis said he would block the nomination because of his ties to the J6ers. Well, this guy was just simply doing his job. And if we use that as a premise, well, then how did we manage to elect John Adams to be our president? John Adams defended the British that were part of the Boston Massacre. He actually defended the soldiers because he said, whether or not I agree with their innocence, they still have the right for defense. He goes, I didn't like what they do, but it's my job to defend them. This is the same thing with Ed Martin. He may not have liked what they did, or he may have agreed with what they did, but they have the right for a defense. We just had Jake Lang on the show that he was allowed an attorney, but for 4 years and 6 days, he never saw the courtroom. They never brought him to trial. They charged him and left him to rot for 4 years and 6 days. So
and we ought to go after these people who did this.
But there's a lack of balance here. I mean, it's okay to give the left as much defense and what prosecution powers or what are powers. I said, that let them have it. But if it comes to our side, we don't have the right to for a speedy trial. We do not have a right for a defense attorney. We don't have the right to openly speak, or we'll be part of the woke crowd. We can be then sued because they got hurt. They didn't agree with what we said. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander.
No, we are political prisoners when it comes to the libtards.
Well, now Ed Martin, I believe it was yesterday, was being interviewed by Newsmax. He was on camera in front of the courthouse or some official building, and he's talking to Newsmax and having an interview. A woman walking this little scrawny thing you call a dog comes up to Ed Martin, has her finger in his face, and she's yelling at him, and then she spits on him, laughs, and walks away.
Real civil.
No, that's assault. In the eyes of the law, that is assault. What she did, especially with the recent health scare with COVID and the bird flu and everything else, Lord knows we've got now an outbreak of measles. This woman threw her bodily fluids onto his person. That is an assault. And just about 10 minutes before coming on air, I heard that the law enforcement was looking for this woman to press charges, to arrest her.
Well,
and rightly so.
They think they have the right to do things like that. I don't know if you've seen the interview a couple of weeks ago where a female journalist was interviewing some Democrat female, and it was going, pretty good, like you would, expect of most interviews. And then the female liberal got a little irate, and she punched or slapped the woman, the journalist, and broke her glasses and everything. They're like that. They turn to violence.
Like I said, it's a separate.
They don't know what civility is.
I'm trying to think of the words. It's a separate set of rules. It's a separate set of rules, and yet we have Jasmine Crockett saying that the GOP is full of terrorists. Who's the other one we have here? What the heck is her name? That she was also saying that we were part of the KKK. All right. Ilhan Omar said all white males are terrorists. Jasmine Crockett was saying the GOP was akin to the KKK. They have been going on these podcasts and doing these interviews all over the place. And they're saying, oh, Black Lives Matter wasn't violent. And they're saying, oh, these were just little tiny things that were going on. I mean, we're not really violent. But because you're white, it is innate in your DNA that you will be a racist, a bigot, part of the KKK, a Nazi, and whatever every name they can call us. Whatever happened to being equal in the eyes of the law and the eyes of God?
Who said they believe in the true God?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a very true question. But this is what we're being hit with now. So,
But from, what was that? Occupy Wall Street to BLM, they were all kind of, out there with the violence and destruction and just trashing out places.
Yeah. And you had Antifa.
Antifa, yeah.
And now you have these anti-Semitic, protests. They're going free Palestine and pro Hamas or whatever it is. But did you see what happened in Columbia University? The students turned around and decided to do a massive protest and take over. Well, they got locked into the library, and the law enforcement said, "No, we're not letting you out." So they held them there, and then one by one, they arrested each and every one. And those that had student visas have been banned from the campus, facing deportation. I love it. I mean, You're coming here as a guest of the United States. We're giving you a visa. We're giving you an education, which we're probably paying for anyway. And then you turn around and protest us? You kidding me? You kidding me?
Well, it just go to show you how far the deep state had its roots, and it went all the way into our colleges and universities, and even into the public school system. That's how
Well,
deep the roots went, and
well,
that's
I'm
why
going back
he's fighting them at every turn, every
every turn,
place of
every
business.
turn. But
I mean, he
you
just
know what,
fired
Trump?
somebody. He just fired somebody from the head of the Library of Congress,
Mhm.
a black
Yeah,
woman, and there's backlash from the left on that one.
yeah, of course, of course. But with the Ed Martin nomination, well, Trump says, okay, he's not good enough for you. I know who to put in there. Our friend of the show, who's been on here several times, a fellow New Yorker, Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Oh yeah,
So,
I didn't hear
yes.
that one.
Yes, yes. So instead he goes, well, if you don't like Ed Martin, then let's see what you have to say about Judge Jeanine, because she will not sit back and keep her mouth shut. That's for sure. You come at her, she will come at you like a tiger.
Is he serious?
He's serious? Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Judge Jeanine. Judge Jeanine. So she may be going up for her nomination. Matter of fact, I'm gonna reach out to her aide and see if we can slip her in for a quick interview before she goes Congress for the nomination. So yes.
Oh,
Oh man. So yeah, there's also we have a good thing happening to us right now because our other guests did not show up, unfortunately. I know they were having some technical difficulties, but as soon as he gets his smiling face on, we have a good friend of ours for a long time, James Simpson. You're kind of a little cloudy. Do you got a veil or something over your screen?
That's kind of weird, isn't it? Let me see if I can't fix that. Hold on.
there's like there's some kind of screen filter or something.
No, it's not a screen filter. It's probably.
You're not in Pittsburgh, are you?
Well, folks, this is the only thing you can get on live air when our guest has to clean up his computer screen. It's a little bit better. You
Yeah,
probably got
Pittsburgh
Well,
was
we say-
known for its smoke. I'm telling you.
We can
It's
say we had a guest
also the
wipe out.
lighting. It's also the lighting, which I can't do anything about because
Well, we see you good enough.
Yeah, I don't-
You look marvelous, darling. You look marvelous.
I
I gotta say,
decided-
you haven't changed.
I decided not to wear my lipstick today, so you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, James and I were texting last night.
I
I sent him a
couldn't find
picture of
my
him with
wig.
lipstick. Oh man, it has been a while, James. You know, that last conversation you and I had was just, I guess, just hours before my late husband passed, and I want to thank you for being a friend, a special friend at that time. I deeply appreciate it, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you sooner. But you came out with this great book, which you sent to me. It's called "Manufactured Crisis: The War to End America," that people can get online. Oh, we just lost our guest. He walked away.
No, I just wanted to. Here's the
Get the book.
Here it is.
Thank you. There we go. There we go. It is a fantastic book. And I have to admit, I'm usually reading 4 or 5 books at a time. So when you ask me how far I got into it, but what I got into, I think is very, very eye-opening. And Curtis and I were talking about some of the things going on in society today. And I'm saying, wait a minute, what we're talking about right at this moment involves what you write about in your book and how we have not been aware that we have been infiltrated for well over a century.
Yeah.
And it has been slowly and insidiously working into the fabric of our society, into the fabric of our politics, and even into the fabric of our faith.
Yeah,
And
yes.
And it is something that
yeah.
And it is something that, you know, I've been learning about and been following, but when you wrote your book, I didn't realize how far back it went.
far and how deep and how wide. Yeah, it's really quite shocking, really.
You know, the first book I interviewed you on, actually, I met you long before at the Tea Party Coalition conventions we had here in South Carolina. That goes back to what, 2010. And you came out later with the book Red Green Axis.
Yeah.
And then you followed up with a second book. This
Red
is
Green.
now your third, which
This is
people
my
can get
fourth.
on Amazon. And
Oh,
there's
this
a link in the show, on most of the show pages, that you can click on and go to Amazon and download it. I got the Kindle copy.
Yeah.
Well,
it can also go to crisisnow.net, because my last book, which I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Who Was Karl Marx? The Men, the Motives, and the Menace Behind Today's Rampaging American Left. And that was a bestseller. I got on with Glenn Beck about that, and he said that book should be in every household in America. And in the next few days, it was in the top 100 at Amazon.
Wow. You got to send me that one now.
Yeah.
But, we were talking about what's going on in society and how it ties into what you write. And specifically, I'm dealing with the first chapter here, with what we see in the behavior of someone like AOC, what we see in the behavior of Jasmine Crockett. And I just had my notes here, and I just shuffled all the pages around as I was talking to you. And I'm trying to remember who the other person was. Oh, I put it up here so I wouldn't miss it. Jasmine Crockett, Ilhan Omar, AOC, and how what you write about in the book is how a liberal tearing of the fabric of our faith, our freedoms, our Constitution, and how it's a deliberate attack against us, the United States.
Yeah.
And I think the fight for good and evil is centered here in this country more than any other country in the world.
Absolutely. We are the main enemy, as Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin said in 1917 after they took over became the Soviet Union. We are the main enemy, and it's easy to tell. We are the only credible opposition to world communism. And I don't care if you call it globalism, or wokeism. It's world communism, and it's led by the Soviet Union. I still call it the Soviet Union, and Red China.
Yeah, actually, I was looking at what was going on in the news the other day and what Putin was doing, and I had talked to a previous guest, and she said, well, so Putin is still a communist, which I realized all along. I knew that. But when she said it, it put a little light bulb in my head. And she was talking about how once they had the freedoms they had in the 1990s, they don't have today. It is now reverted back. And people are completely unaware of that. They're thinking of the People's Republic, or whatever they called it, Russia, in the 1990s when they actually did have freedom.
Well, they got them temporary freedom to put up appearances.
Boris Yeltsin.
Yeah, Boris Yeltsin. He was part of the whole sham. The whole thing was a sham. It's what they call a deny your enemy an enemy tactic, and it's right out of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Deny your enemy an enemy. And if you deny your enemy an enemy, he no longer has the rationale to build up his military, to spend a lot on military, to build up his forces, to practice. And of course, as soon as this quote unquote Soviet Union fell, everybody in Congress cheered, the Republicans cheered, they credited Reagan and all the conservatives. And the Democrats said, oh, it wasn't so bad. See, they were never that much of a threat. And everybody declared themselves the winner, and they went home. And then we reduced to our military to hollow force levels under Clinton, and actually George H.W. Bush helped with that as well, and did some other things that were amazing. You know, that's when I was working in the White House Budget Office, and H.W. Bush took the 1,600 FBI agents that had been working counterintelligence, which really was the primary driver for the creation of the FBI under Hoover at first in the 1920s. That was the original impetus for the creation of the FBI, was a domestic counterintelligence organization. And under H.W. Bush, the 1,600 agents that had been assigned to that task were reassigned to gang enforcement. And so he basically gutted our entire domestic counterintelligence operation. And it was already bad. And this was despite numerous penetrations of the FBI, Hansen, and the people in the CIA. It's just incredibly beyond stupid. You know, it's so stupid you almost can't make it up. And meanwhile, all the people that I knew in federal law enforcement, and I knew a lot of them because I oversaw the law enforcement functions of the Customs Service, the ATF, the Secret Service, and other federal agencies, and they all said, yeah, after the Soviet Union fell, the intelligence operations of KGB in the United States increased, didn't decrease, it increased. And why? Because we dropped our guard. And that was the whole goal of that thing. And of course, yeah, communism is dead, long live communism. As soon as that happened, all over the world, countries flipped to communism. You know, and all of the forces that we had been supporting in the field, my favorite, well, not favorite, but the one that's most memorable to me is Jonas Savimbi in Angola, who was fighting the Angolan communists, and he was being nominally supported by us. We were basically keeping him and his force alive against the Angolans, who had about 20,000 Cuban troops in Angola with them to hunt down and fight Savimbi and his forces. As soon as the wall fell, we withdrew all our support, and within a month or two, Savimbi was dead and his force was destroyed. And that's what they did all over the world.
Oh, that's not me calling.
I've got to take this. I'll hold on just a sec.
Okay, we'll just take him off so he can make his phone call. We'll bring him right back. You know, it's a lot where when I was talking to this individual that she was heartbroken. You know, she wanted to go back and visit and stuff, but she goes, it's impossible because, you know, what I grew up in, what I was accustomed to, you know, it's gone. It is all gone. It's reverted. Now, I when I was young, in high school, graduating high school, I remember Richard Nixon going to China. Remember the ping pong diplomacy? And as a kid, I was screaming at the TV, no, this is the worst thing. As a kid, I understood what it was. It was a sham because the Chinese will talk to you one way, but they're actually meant the exact opposite. And this is their nature. This is how they grow. This is where they're raised. They know no other way unless we take them out of that society and raise them in a different one. But as Nixon's going there, a friend of mine who happened to be Chinese saying, actually she was Vietnamese. She goes, listen, what the interpreter is telling them is not what is being said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was just an unforced error on the part of the Nixon administration, and we've been paying for it ever since. I mean, you know, the Chinese gained entrance to the World Trade Organization, and you know, when they finally got approval to join the United Nations, it was announced at a UN meeting, and everybody in the audience stood up and clapped. So it was like, most of the UN nations, or at least most of the representatives from the UN member nations, are all communists. And they're all supporters of, they call it globalism, but really the UN was created as another vehicle for Soviet foreign policy. And this is according to the Soviets themselves. And as I'm sure you know, or if you don't, it's in my book. The UN Charter was written by Alger Hiss, who was one of the largest traders, Soviet agents, traders in the United States in history. He was, in the State Department, and Whittaker Chambers worked under him, and Whittaker Chambers wrote the book Witness. He became a Christian and turned.
Oh, it's in the other bookshelf. I was going to say the bookshelf behind me, but I moved it to another bookshelf.
It's a great book, but Alger Hiss was one of the most notorious communist traders in our history, and he wrote the UN Charter, and he wrote it, for example, to give the Soviet Union 3 votes to R1, because he rationalized that Belarus and Ukraine were separate countries, which at that time they weren't. They were all part of the Soviet Union. So it would be like giving California and Texas and the rest of the United States each a vote. But of course, he didn't get us for that. And after he accompanied FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in his last few days of his life to Yalta, and convinced FDR to give Eastern Europe to Stalin, which enslaved all of Eastern Europe and caused the death of millions. And after that, he flew directly to the Soviet Union, where he was given an award for his work.
Hey, Jim.
Well,
yes, sir.
Okay, you said that Nixon made an error.
Yeah.
In his China diplomacy.
Absolutely.
Don't all presidents have advisors and think tanks that give them input? And I know it's his final say.
No, you're forgetting we had a President Biden here. Yes.
Well, sure do. And Nixon's was
he ill-advised or what?
By Kissinger? Yeah. And in fact, there's a strong case can be made that Kissinger was himself a Soviet agent. And he was at best a useful idiot for the Soviets, because, he helped the North Vietnamese win the war in Vietnam. He was awful as an advisor. The Soviets thought he was an arrogant idiot. They literally, that's what they thought of him. They thought he was an arrogant fool. And of course, the whole idea of using China as a wedge to divide the two communist countries, because China was supposedly having a border war with the Soviet Union at the time, and we could convince the Chinese to become our allies against the Soviets, was the most ignorant thing you could imagine. Because if you know even anything about communism, you are communist first, last, and always, and you never would side with anybody against a fellow communist, no matter, even if you hated him. He's still the guy on your side. And so that entire Sino-Soviet split that they talked about was also a fake. It was a made up thing, and I believe it was made up for just the purpose that that enabled or that inspired Nixon to try to capitalize on it by giving this opening to China, and just absolutely mindlessly foolish. And it's too bad, because Nixon was generally, well, he did a lot of dumb things, but he was better, a heck of a lot better than the alternative.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go to what Curtis and I were talking about what's going on in our society today. And I'm going to bring up one name, Mancoos.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Who is he, and what has he done to us that it's seeped through our society to the point where we are at where we are?
Yeah. Herbert Mancouz, well, you really have to talk about the Frankfurt School to talk about Mancouz, because, and the Frankfurt School, it's an interesting story. Another 20s and 30s era, very, very famous, very influential communist was a guy named Willy Munzenberg. And he was a German, joined the German Communist Party, was 15, and he only had a high school degree, but he was brilliant. And he was very active, and he became what they called the Red Millionaire. And he financed hundreds of theaters, opera houses, restaurants, and public places where they would peddle Soviet propaganda under, under a different heading. And he had newspapers and, a huge network all across Europe. And he went to Hollywood and created the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League, which was really the Hollywood pro-Stalin League, but they called it the Anti-Nazi League. And it got people like Ernest Hemingway involved. And all these people were, if not communists themselves, they were sympathizers. And he encouraged that. And he created something called the front concept, the popular front idea, like the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League, and many of these other organizations that exist today under the non-profit status. They're actually communist front groups. The Institute for Policy Studies, there's a whole story behind that one. That's a KGB outfit, but and it's right down the street from the White House. But so in the 20s, he and another guy, Georgy Lukács, went to Lenin and said, we should create an institute that promotes communism under a different banner. And Lenin agreed, and they funded through Comintern, Communist International funds, and the help of the spoiled rich kid's son of a wealthy German industrialist, to create the Institute for Social Research in Frankfurt, Germany in 1923. And it became known as the Frankfurt School, because it was housed at the Frankfurt on Main, which was the Frankfurt University. But it was called the Institute for Social Research to hide that it was actually a Marxist school. And all the teachers were communists. Most of them were Comintern members. Some of them were actually Soviet agents who were using being professors at the Institute as a cover for their, clandestine activities in Germany. And that was in 1923. And of course, in 1933, the Frankfurt School had to flee Germany because Hitler had been elected and he was going after the communists, and of course the Jews, and most of the faculty, if not all of the faculty at the Frankfurt School, were Jewish communists. So they had two strikes against them. And they were resettled at the Columbia Teachers College in New York.
Well, I want to cut in here, Jim, because the purpose of what Mancouz and the others were doing at the time is to degrade society.
Well, I was going to get right to that. So the Frankfurt School was reestablished at Columbia University, where they were able to influence approximately 60% of the subsequent teachers and administrators in colleges throughout the country. So they had a huge impact. And very early on, they wrote an essay called Critical Theory. And critical theory was this new philosophy, they called it a philosophy, that essentially criticized everything about Western culture. And it actually came from the mind of Marx, who had said well before he had written the Communist Manifesto, He said, we're not talking about the issues of our time. We don't care about that. What? Doesn't make sense. But that's what he said. He said, what I'm really talking about is a ruthless criticism of everything existing, and we will have no fear of the consequences of this criticism. So in other words, his desire was to tear down all of the institutions, all of the elements of Western society that made Western society successful. And that's what critical theory was. And so they began teaching critical theory in the 1930s. And then, of course, downstream from that, you had critical race theory, you have critical legal theory, you have critical women's studies, you have critical pedagogy, you have hundreds of different critical theories, and each one takes a smaller and smaller segment of our society and breaks it apart and criticizes it to the point where everybody that is targeted in that particular group hates everybody else and hates our country and hates and wants to just destroy it all. And so that's what critical race theory is about. You know, it is not about curing racism. It is about exploding racism. It is about using resentment and using misinformation, frankly, to put us all against each other. Because what is it in the end? If you look at it from 30,000 feet, it is nothing more than a very fancy, very clever method of divide and conquer. And Herbert Marcuse, as one of the younger critical theory professors from the Frankfurt School, became the best known. He became the father of the New Left. The SDS absolutely adored him. He became the father of the sexual revolution. He wrote a book in the 50s called Eros and Civilization, where he declared that sex was a political act, and he advocated polymorphous perversity, whatever that means. And his whole goal was to turn our culture against itself and destroy it.
Yeah, he wanted to turn us completely inside out. So you have everyone now fighting each other, whether or not you believe in a secure family with a father and mother. They say, no, you don't need a 2-parent family. If you say that you were the doctor and your DNA say you're born a girl, they say, no, you're fluid. You can be whomever you want. They say that if you're white, you're evil. And then everyone else, you oppress everyone else. If you have faith in God, then you're psycho or whatever they want to call you. They destroy the church, they destroy the society, they destroy our mores. And the idea is to completely destroy and implode the United States from itself inside.
Yeah,
Kind of
absolutely.
sounds like Nikita Khrushchev when he said, "We will not destroy you with missiles and bombs. We will destroy you from within."
Yeah, no, and you know, it's interesting. I'm reading a book by a Chinese man who was in China during the Cultural Revolution, and he was labeled a rightist, even though, you know, he really wasn't actually. He started out as a very adamant follower of Mao Zedong until he figured out what Mao was doing, and then he was horrified about it. But he eventually was able to immigrate to the West, and he wrote a book, was just published, and I actually endorsed the book. It's on the back of the cover. And in it, he describes, and I was just reading this last night, how Mao's goal, the goal of the Cultural Revolution, was to turn logic on its head, was to turn everything upside down and inside out, put one person against the other, and do all these things so that we would have, frankly, no anchors to reality, that we would be totally lost in space, as it were, not knowing which end was up, because under those circumstances, we were very easy to control. And that's what they did in communist China. And it's a perfect description of what they've been trying to do here, and up until this most recent election had been increasingly successful at it. And finally, common sense prevailed, and we've all said, we've had enough. And I just hope us saying we've had enough and the follow through will be enough to actually stop this stuff, because their intention is to destroy our country. And it is the subtitle of my book, Manufactured Crisis, The War to End America, because that's what it's about.
Well, what I love is the people that turned around and gave you your intro into the book, like Frank Gaffney. And matter of fact, I believe it was Frank that quoted a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine that recently passed away, Lloyd Marcus.
Oh,
said
right.
that-
No,
who
I
said-
quoted Lloyd. I quoted Lloyd in the introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a few people know him, but what a patriot and what a gleeful soul he was.
Yeah.
But that he said we had to elect the right president, meaning re-elect Trump. And I think Trump learned in those 4 years everything that went wrong. And I think he had a chance to sit back and look and help us start to regain our moral and core values. As I was saying in the opening of the show, I was reading a recent survey done that there is a growth in Christianity, and what's coming back to faith in the Bible are young men.
Mm.
Young
Yeah.
men. And we're starting to see a turn because people realize there's something more in life than fame and money. There's got to be something more for the soul.
Yes.
And I think people are starting to realize that. But your book outlines why it happened, what is happening, but you also put out steps on how we can regain
Yes.
our core
absolutely.
center.
And,
We'll
and
always have that fraction in there, always trying to break us apart. We're always, like I said, I do believe the fight for good and evil is truly centered on our nation.
yeah, it is. No, it is. But it is a fight, that's been we've been fighting since the Garden of Eden, really. And a lot of it has to do with our own natures and the extent to which we allow our own natures to get free rein versus the discipline and earnestness we get by becoming believers. If you're not a believer, you don't really have any kind of legitimate way to have any moral underpinnings. People say, well, you can be moral and righteous without God. Really, yeah, but what does that mean? If you get to define what that means, then you also get to define what it doesn't mean. And the fact of the matter is that most of the people that behave in the way we think a decent person should behave, whether they're a believer or not, and whether they know it or not, they are following Judeo-Christian principles, because that's what we were all born with. That's been our heritage, and it's what you find here. It's not what you find in a lot of other places. In a lot of other places, stealing, killing, all of those things are perfectly legitimate reasons for improving your own life. And so it really very much, not exclusively, but I think in large part comes as a result of the Judeo-Christian heritage. And Marx knew that, and the communists knew that, and that's why they felt that was the most important thing to target.
Jim, I hate to say this, but we're down to our last minute here.
And I had
We're
one
gonna
more
have to have-
question. Wow.
No, we have to
Yeah.
have you back. We're going to get you back. It'll probably be next month because I'm swamped.
Okay.
But I'm glad that you could come on early. And I'm telling people, go out, get this book, Manufactured Crisis, that you can get on Amazon. You can download it to your Kindle also, and share it. Share it with friends and family. Jim,
Yeah.
God bless you. And we'll be talking soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Curtis. Did you have a last question, or do we not have time for that?
I was just
We're
gonna
out.
say-
We got seconds left, Curtis.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much, folks.
All righty.
All right. Thank you. Until then, we say we'll be back next Friday with another guest. I don't even know who it is on the top of my head, but for that, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we say good night and God bless.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.